Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Hess, and today I'm going to be creating an app in Teams. The goal is I'm going to create a type of request center so people can request something in Microsoft Teams, and then I think for my next video I'm going to try and recreate it as a virtual agent in Teams, just so we can kind of see how you have a Power App and then you could actually convert that entire Power App to a virtual agent. So right now I'm in a dev environment and I'm in Teams. I'm using the web version instead of the client version. And I'm in just a sandbox team. And I'm going to create a new Power App in here. So to do that, we're on a blank Microsoft Teams here. We're going to actually add the app. So here on the left side, you see the three dots. We're going to add PowerApps. And I'll probably just right click on it and pin it so it's always there now. So you can see I have a couple other, test Power Apps that I created, but I'm going to click on New App here. And this is going to be in my sandbox team. So you have to have a Microsoft team, obviously. And you can see here, you're the first person to create an app in the team. So it's actually going to create an environment. And this environment is going to have its own database called Dataverse for Teams. And it's all based off the free license model of your Microsoft 365 licenses. So if you have Teams, Microsoft 365, I'm pretty sure you can create Power Apps with the database with Dataverse for Teams for free and use that. All right, so we're just waiting. It may take a little bit for your first time. Let's check out the Power Platform Admin Center. So if you're actually an admin and you can get to the Admin Center, you can see there's a new environment of type Microsoft Teams here. And so that is the new environments that is being created. Now, all the permissions, you don't have to manage it here. It's actually built off of the Teams infrastructure of security. So you have, your membership, guests, and owners. So one thing that you're limited to in Dataverse for Teams with a Power App in Teams is you can't have any custom permissions. So if we go to manage permissions, you can see how much we're limited. We have full access, collaborate, reference, private. So for a member, you can make it so they can only create new and read. They can't update. You can make it so they can only read, or they can only create new. They cannot read their own. All options are available, and that will, push out through the Power App. So these are the options that you're limited to for. All right, so my Teams Power App is ready. You can see I'm in the Build tab here under Sandbox, and we have nothing installed. There also is some data flows and previews. Maybe we'll get to that in a future time, but that's how you can push data into your database. So I'm going to do New App. You do have Chatbot and Card, but I'm going to do App for now. All right, so pretty much this is going to look very similar to what you're used to. So what are we going to request? I wanted to create something about a request. How about just something simple? How about like a work request? Work request. Maybe there's a team that, I don't know, they do SQL or they do Oracle or something, and you need to request work for them. Let them know that there's a new project and maybe you want someone on their team. Now, right off the bat, you can see, what a little bit that's different. And, it says start with data or with layout. Now, I've been through a lot of talks with people, should this be responsive? Obviously, PowerApps says mobile first. Well, my opinion, that's not always right. Maybe, I know no one's going to do mobile, but for this app, it's a request center. Someone could easily do mobile. So we'll just start with one of their layouts. You don't have to do this. I have done, I've pulled over other Power Apps into Power Apps for Teams without the responsive layout. And what I did was I just came in here and I did display, and I did scale to fit, lock aspect ratio, and lock orientation, because I work for the government and I knew the exact laptops that these people will be using, and they're going to be using that exact type of laptop for probably forever, maybe at least 5 years. So, that's why I decided to go with that decision. But for this one, we'll just start with layout, and I'll do the header, main, section, footer. Now, what you'll notice is that when you start with this layout, it's actually a container with 3 more containers. So if you wanted to create your own, right here, they're starting with a main container. Maybe we'll do that. So you'll see it's a container in a container. So let's do that. So what they do is they insert a container and they start with a vertical container. So you have your one container. I'm going to call this one screening container. And this is the main container. And then we're going to insert another one and we're going to do horizontal. And this is going to be our button container. So we see I have a button container. And then I'm going to add one more just to make this simple. We're going to do another horizontal container. And I put it in the wrong spot. We want to make sure it's in my screen container. So we're going to do another horizontal container. You see we have 2. Now this one, let's reorder. I'm going to move this one to the top. This one is going to be my header container. And now if we come over here to the right side, and let me move my face for most of this video. On the right side, you can see this fill portions. You know, so the bottom, we're going to say it's 3. So now it turned to 3 of 4. And so this is 1 of 4. So my button container is going to be 3/4 of the page horizontally across, because that's what the screen container is limiting it to. And this one is 1 of 4. So 1/4 of my screen and 3/4 of my screen. And in here, we're going to have 2 buttons. So we'll have 2 buttons. Oh, I missed that one. So we want it in the button container. All right, so we have 2 buttons. In the container, in the button container, I'm going to say, you know, justify it in the center. So now my buttons are there. And then we want some spacing in between them. So to do that, we're going to fill in the gap. Maybe about 150. Let's see, is that too much? So, all right. So now we have a gap between our 2 buttons. And this button is going to say request. And I'm not sure what yet. We're gonna say we're gonna have 2 different types of requests. And I want my buttons to be a little bigger. I feel like that's too small. So I'm just gonna manually do this. I'm gonna go down to width and we're gonna say 200. And also want to change the height. I feel like it's too thin. So height, we'll change it to 75. What do you think? There we go. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. So height, 75, 75, width, 200. I feel like we're not too big, you know, depending on what size screen we are. We can zoom in and you see how it kind of, you know, fixes to the screen. All right, so we're at 100%. We have 2 buttons. And in the top container, we're just going to put like a title up here. So we'll say insert a label. And we're going to go to the container here, the header container. And I'm going to say put it at the bottom and in the middle. And we also want this to be in the middle. And we're going to call this the request center. All right, so we have the request center here, and we're going to go to a font of a little bit bigger, but that means we also have to make our label bigger, so we'll go 50. There we go. So we have a request center. We can change the font type, you know, maybe you want Arial or some other font type. There, I did Verdana. All right, so we have 2 buttons on our screen 1. So request and request. And I'm not sure what we're requesting exactly yet, but let's say request resource. And let's say request, what is this team? I can't really think of something right now. I'm just going to say request a brainstorm. How about that? Maybe you just want to get with some people, you don't know how to do it, and you just want to chat with them, and this team is really busy. So you have to sit in line, you know, you have to sit in line to request from them. All right, so we have a request center. Yeah, it looks good right now. Request a resource or request a brainstorm. All right, so That's all we have right now. We're going to create a new screen. I guess we'll start with the header main section footer. So this time we started with their template. And you can see here, you know, we have the container, the screen. Oh, they even call it screen container. That's where I got it from. Screen container, and then you have your other containers inside here. So now we need to collect some data. So how are we going to do that? We're going to go to the little data icon here. It kind of looks like a cylinder. And we're going to create a new table. And so this is going to create a table in our Dataverse. And we're going to say resource. And so this is going to be our resource table. And just so you know, when you make a table in the Dataverse for Teams, it's going to add an S to it. That's just how Microsoft does it. It's just like best practice. Let it go. Don't add an S to your table name. It'll pluralize it itself, okay? All right, so request resource. All right, so right now we have just a name. There's also some other columns that come in here. Let's just go ahead and view them. So we've created on, modified, modified by, and owner. Let's create some more columns, and we'll just say resource name. Oh, no, we already have resource name. Let's say position, I guess, or job description. And this is just going to be a choice field. Now, if you notice when I come in here and I highlight, you can see that I have a lot of options for text. Same with number, date, time, choice, yes or no. There's a lot of options here. So let me just do choice. And, you know, we get more options in here. And let's say, you know, our choices are developer, senior developer, business analyst. Oh, I can't spell senior right. Let me spell senior right. And maybe a tester. We'll just say UAT tester. User accepting testing tester. we'll say that right now. Display name is position. All right. So we have a choice. And now we're going to choose position here, right? So we have position. Those are our choices. Default choice is none. And it's required. We'll say that one's required. All right, and then we'll save. Now, one thing I have noticed that I saw people do, I saw Shane Young do this, is he actually came to name here, and he went and edited the name column and renamed it title, just to make it look like SharePoint. You know, people are comfortable in SharePoint. They renamed their column here title. Position, so let's say requested date by. So maybe we have a date field here. So date and time, date only. I know since it says date only, there's lots of little things in there where it's going to like fight us about date only. But so now we have three options: title, position, and requested date. That's all we really need right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and close. And you'll notice that we now have a new data source here. All right, so we're just going to insert a form. Let's see here. An edit form. We're going to connect it to my resource table. And so it's pretty simple the way it is. For title, I'm going to make this the full width. And title, we're going to rename it. I'm just going to rename it to, I'm going to unlock it. Instead of parent.display, why do you need to request a resource? Something like that, you know. And so that's going to save in our title field still. All right. And then you can see, even though we chose date only, we still have time in here. I mean, that's just PowerApps not knowing how to be PowerApps yet. So I'm just going to remove all that. All right, so now You know, the date gets confused. It's like, hey, no, we want all that date stuff. I don't care about all this here. I'll just remove it. And we don't care about the seconds either. So there we go. Now we just have date, year, month, day. All right, so now we need a button, or we can go back to our other screen. So on screen 1, request resource, what we'll do is we'll say on select, we're going to new form, form 1, and then we're going to navigate to screen 2 on a fade. All right, so it's very basic. We can rename this to resource request. That's our screen name. Normally, for me, actually, is I capitalize resource request. I capitalize my screen names like completely. That's just preference. So now when we go to screen 1, we're on the request center. We click on request resource. We have a new form here. Why do you need to request a resource? Maybe you want to put that in a nicer way. Position, you know, they can say UAT tester. They can pick a date. I need to test a new app we developed. You should always do we's in work, right? A work setting. So at the top, we could add a button, but when I was watching, I believe it was Christine's video, you know, if this was on the phone, we want the submit buttons on the bottom because that's where our thumb will be, right? So it's hard to press a submit button at the top. So picture this was a phone app. Your thumb would have to reach all the way up there. Now we want the thumb button to be down here on the bottom. So we'll just insert a button down here at the bottom and make sure it's in my footer container. It is. And we're going to push it on the left side. So there we go. We have it on the left side here. And then we're going to, or maybe actually I did that wrong. Well, we'll justify it. It's going to be the full length. And then at the end, the button will be there. I think what we want is a padding 200. There we go. So the button's not all the way over there, maybe 150. Okay, so now we have a button here. Let's make it a little bigger. I just like things bigger. So we're just keeping this nice and simple. We're not going to do patch statements. I'm not doing UI, UX yet. But this button on select form 1. Nice and simple. So now we have a button down here. We have our submission. I'll submit. It submitted the data. Maybe we want to send, you know, we want to give a success screen. Maybe after submitting, we want to navigate back to home, which is screen 1. Or maybe we want to do this on success. So actually, this is a good tip. So instead of navigating right here on your submit button, on the form, on success, you navigate. If you don't succeed, you don't navigate, like, right? So let's go back to our screen 1. Let's try it again. I just want another, we have to develop a SAP app. Position, we need a senior developer requested by, you know, the 30th, and we'll submit again. And so now on success, it navigates to screen 1. All right, so let's check out our data. So if we go to our data right here, we can either look at it here, but we can also go to PowerApp. Well, let's save, right? Let's save. So I'm going to go ahead and publish to Teams. So I'm going to publish this to the team. It's going to save for me. It's going to ask me what tab. What tab do I want to publish to? And I'm just going to put it on the general. So I'm going to put the work request right on the general tab. So it'll be in Teams. All right, so let's go back. We're going to leave, close down, and we're going to look at the data. Now you see here is my Dataverse or Teams table. It's under resource. We're then just pulling it up. We can create views just like SharePoint, right? Create views, relationships. You can click here and do select all so we can see everything. But we can see I have 2 line items in here. The title is, they needed this, the position they wanted to request, and the requested date. So, I mean, that's exactly what we wanted. So let's continue back to our app. All right, so I'm just gonna skip over the brainstorm form and all that. It's pretty much just the same stuff. I just, what do you want to brainstorm about? I added a few columns. On the form, in the advanced property, we added a notify success. That's one extra thing I did. And I'm just gonna get on to my next screen that I worked on, and that's viewing the data in a gallery. We have a pretty basic screen here, request resource, request brainstorm. Going on. We'll create the galleries, like we'll say view that data. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna go fast on this one. All right, so I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna do blank. I'm gonna insert my own vertical container. So on this one, I'm just gonna have one container. That's just how I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna do a label at the top. It's gonna take up the entire space. So we want everything to take up the entire space and be centered. Not that type of center. Center like that. Space, put it in the center. Okay, so now we'll insert a gallery, a vertical gallery. Okay, and then we'll insert another label, and once again this one is going to take up the entire space and be centered, and then we're going to insert another vertical gallery. Oh, make sure I'm in my container. So I'm in my container, insert a vertical gallery. There we go. So we have label, vertical gallery, label. Okay, and so now I'm going to connect the resources here and the brainstorms here. So this will be resource requests. And this will be brainstorm request. And mainly this is just so people can see what data is in there. I removed that picture. I'll put this in here. I'm gonna remove the picture here. We don't have pictures. We don't need pictures. Okay, and at the top we'll have a button. So send this button to the top. So over here I'm gonna reorder. It'll navigate to screen 1 on a fade. So yeah, we have our back button now. So we can see, let's add one more button here. I'm just gonna copy paste. Oh, we want it inside the container. So I'll copy in this button container, add another one. View all requests. And this is mainly for the team to view as. And so this is going to, on select, it's going to navigate to view request, and we're not going to do any new forms. All right, so now we have 3 buttons. We have request a resource, request brainstorm, and view all requests. So we can review them. We can create a new, what do you want? We can create a new resource request. What position, business analyst, pick a date, submit. We didn't do a success statement there, but request brainstorm. Why did we not do a success notification on the other screen? Yeah, that's what we want to talk about. Why didn't we do that? And we're going to meet in person for this just to waste everyone's time. And we'll submit. We got our success screen with view requests. We can see them all. So we've created a very basic PowerApp. I mean, we could add some UX, UI in here, make this look way better. But I feel like, okay, we understand how it works in teams. Let's publish it. And now, just because this is a PowerApp in a team does not mean it's for the team only. You can invite people outside of the team also. It's just that they're going to see it in a different space. So let's publish it and leave. So when we go back to home and we go to build, you'll see we have our work request right here, right? So we can hit share with colleagues, and this is going to share with people in other teams, right? So as long as we have a security group that we can save to, we can share that and say colleagues can use, and that way that other team or security group can then use that app. But once you share it with outside teams, you would then come to more apps, and it's going to be in here built with the Power Platform. So we can see, here it is right here, work request. So we can add this, right? We can add this and pin it. So now we actually have it on our left side navigation also. We can pin it, we can change that icon, but you can see here is my Power App. So it's also in Teams. So in Teams, it's also in this tab here. I did turn on, scale to fit the screen and everything. So I'm on a 4K monitor, so it's scaling to fit. And we can see our Power App, test. And we could submit. Position is required. That's good. That's working. So, and then we can just see, our test shows up. So that's our Power Apps for Teams. I think next week I'm going to try and recreate this, but I'm going to do it in virtual agents, and maybe I'll add a little bit more in there. I've never done a virtual agent in Teams, but I'm going to try it next week, I think. So stay tuned. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'm successful. I'm putting a little pressure on myself. Never done it before, but I'm going to do it live on YouTube. So thank you, everyone who's watching. My name is Andrew Hess. Please like and subscribe, and we'll keep building next week. Thank you.